You will not believe what's being taught by a prominent Catholic theologian today, a Franciscan religious sister who teaches at a prominent Catholic university, who has taught at other prominent Catholic universities, including Catholic seminaries, forming priests for decades now. But because her particular brand of apostasy is couched in the sci-fi deception of artificial general intelligence, and she is the chief promoter of Father Teilhard de Chardin, she gets a free pass, even though her message is completely undermining the entire Catholic and Christian faith. There has never been so much as a warning about her from the hierarchy, much less has any action been taken against her. I'll get to her in a moment. First, let's talk about why I'm making this video today. I've known for a long time that justice and truth require that I make this video about the errors of this particular person. She's doing incalculable damage to the church, and no one else is calling it out. But I'm making this video today because of certain other breaking news about what's going on in the church in America. And this has been going viral. It's very significant. And that news is Winona Ryder is dating Scott Hahn. Sorry. No, couldn't help it. That's fake news, but it is funny. Winona Ryder is dating Scott Hahn, but not that Scott Hahn. She's not dating the good Scott Hahn. The good Scott Hahn is happily married to Kimberly Hahn. The real news here is this, the shakeup in Detroit. So this shows the utter hypocrisy of apostasy being given a free rein, as we'll see in a minute, in our Catholic higher education institutions today, while orthodoxy is persecuted. 3 good, holy, Orthodox Catholic professors were just fired from Sacred Heart Seminary in Detroit. And these men have served the church faithfully for decades in their positions at Sacred Heart Seminary. Their orthodoxy is unquestionable. They are each 100% solid, devout, obedient, good, pious Catholics. I have followed Dr. Martin, and Dr. Peters is the other one who was just fired from Sacred Heart. I followed them for a long time, many years. And you'd have to be crazy to think that they deserve to be fired from teaching at a seminary. I don't know very much about the third one, Dr. Echeverria. I'm not sure if I'm even pronouncing that right, but I've heard he's also great. Ralph Martin, he's not only 100% Orthodox in his views and in his teaching, he's also very prophetic. There is a article we have up on Countdown from him. And Dr. Peters, he's always been a great defender and promoter of orthodoxy as well. None of these men are rad-trads. Yes, they've given some necessary criticisms of ambiguities during the last pontificate. Justice demanded that, but they never rebelled against Pope Francis. They never dishonored or disrespected him. They never claimed he wasn't Pope. They never dissented from his official magisterium or anything like that. Quite similar to the line I've taken for many years. But anyway, those men, I'm not. Those men are heroes of the faith. They should be honored. Instead, what we see today is that they're unceremoniously fired after decades of selfless service. And this is a travesty. And this travesty is all the more outrageous when we contrast this to what other things are going on in Catholic universities today. And that is downright apostasy, being taught without any opposition whatsoever, even as we see Catholic Orthodoxy being persecuted. And that brings me to the topic of this video. Let me introduce it here with a few clips from a major event that happened last year in Denver, Colorado. And it's called Theology Beer Camp. Here we go. Sorry, before I play the clip there, this is from a group called Homebrewed Christianity. And there's the YouTube thumbnail there with the event that I'm about to put on the screen. Here is another advertisement for Homebrewed Christianity. And just quick tangent here. Whenever you see a so-called Christian apostolate, Christian ministry presented in the terms of beer, run in the opposite direction. And I've got nothing at all against beer. I love beer in moderation. But this fixation and obsession that we see in so many supposedly Orthodox Christian and Catholic ministries, the beer and pints and steins and cigars and all sorts of other luxury and indulgence being the focus of it all, that's not good. It's not evil. There's nothing wrong with those enjoyments in moderation. I also enjoy the occasional cigar. But there's something really bizarre going on when these things become the focus of apostolates, because that's not how you win souls. Holiness wins souls. Nothing else. Nothing. And a lot of this is also just performative masculinity that has nothing to do with actual masculinity itself. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to those clips here. Here is the introduction, and you'll see who we're speaking here now when he says it.
And then the Holy Ghost touched my heart and said, could you
Sorry, it wasn't the Holy Ghost, whoever he's speaking of here. That's who he thinks it was, though.
put them on stage at the same time at Theology Beer Camp in Denver? And so that's what's happening.
You can already tell from the background noise there from the audience, this is a very big event. And indeed it was.
So if you'll join me, and I mean join me in a verbose way, because this is Ilya freaking Dilio.
In a verbose. Okay, so he introduces Ilya Delio. We'll talk more about her in a moment here. Let's move on to how she presents her message.
And then the Holy Ghost touched my heart and said, could you...
All right, so here she is, Ilya Delio. This is sister, professor, theologian, Sister Ilya Delio at this massive event. Let's see what she has to say.
My God's bigger than your God, right? Or because my God...
That's sarcasm, by the way.
God's bigger than your God, right? Or we have the real God. Or like Catholics are great on we're the true, we're the real deal. And you're nice people, but unless you become one of us, it's not going to go well for you, right? I'm like, oh my God.
Blessed be the name of God. Apologies there. She takes the Lord's name in vain. Please remember to make a little act of reparation, at least mentally, when you hear that happen.
Is that ever bad thinking, right? So it's not something you are, it's something you do. Religion is what you do. And I think Jesus of Nazareth is really a good example there. He never said, hey, I'm God, by the way, and I'm starting a new church, and you really need to follow me. It was just about doing, right? So
there's a lot of her message in a nutshell there. We'll get to more in a minute. But this brief clip here makes me wonder if this woman this great theologian has ever read the Gospels. Where this is the message she's been preaching for decades, by the way, and teaching and forming generations of Catholics with. Jesus, of course, as anyone who's opened the Gospels knows that he explicitly says repeatedly exactly what she says he never said. He founded his one and only church on Peter, Matthew 16:18. He repeatedly said to these God, I and the Father are one. No one comes to the Father except by me. Whoever has seen the Father, whoever has seen me has seen the Father. On and on and on with quotes like that. In fact, I think I've got a clip here from the Passion of the Christ. Yep, there it is. Let's take a look at what Jesus actually said. No one comes to whenever you're inundated with nonsense like what we'll have to deal with in this podcast today, just go watch the Passion of the Christ. I mean, best yet, read the Gospel, but watch the Passion. That'll set things straight for you. Anyway, this Catholic professor, theologian sister, has been preaching a new religion for a very long time now, even as she continues to be regarded as a good Catholic theologian and professor. And it's not Catholicism, what she's preaching. It's not even Christianity. And it's not even traditional monotheism, in fact. Apologies. I'm still figuring out how to do the technical stuff here correctly. Anyway, let's see her next clip.
that's what life does. It adapts. It changes as the environment changes. Now, I just thought you should know this is what it looks like in the Catholic Church.
She just despises patriarchy above all. Maybe not above all. She just, we'll see what she despises above all. But she never misses a chance to condemn men.
Some are evolving, some are not. Okay, I just want you to know that the rate of evolution is not constant across the domains. Now, one thing I want us to appreciate is that nature is incomplete. We are in process of becoming. That's really an important point, because we talk about, especially if you follow the Adam and Eve narrative, that God created it, then we...
The Adam and Eve narrative. That's just a narrative, all that Genesis Bible stuff. We leave all that behind. You know, that's just like the other myths of other cultures. The divine revelation as given to us in the book of Genesis. This is fundamental to her view and to the view of those who agree with her.
Fell, then we have to repair things, right? So that's a very static view, and it's actually not in sync with our true biological existence. We emerge, we're incomplete because we're continued to be emerging. There are no fixed essences.
Now, this is philosophically completely flawed, and as we'll see shortly, this is also her view of God. Nothing is fixed, it's emerging. And as we'll also see in a minute, what she preaches here is just ancient pagan pantheism, rebranded with the sci-fi deceptions of Teilhard and evolution, faith in aliens, and belief in imminent artificial general superintelligence. These diabolical lies give her the premises that she needs to incite her revolution against the faith of our fathers. So, who exactly is this person? This is Sister Professor Dr. Ilia Delio, the Josephine Connolly Endowed Chair in Christian Theology at Villanova University. Yes, she really is a Catholic theologian, nun, professor at a Catholic university, Villanova, and this is the college that, yes, Pope Leo XIV, our current Pope, went to. She also taught at Georgetown University for many years. That's another big Catholic university. She was the director of Catholic studies there. And let's move on here. She taught at Washington Theological Union. That was a Catholic seminary. She's written more journal articles and books and lectures and given more lectures and seminars and whatnot that I can even count. She's been massively influential in Catholic academia in America for decades now, as you can see. So hopefully it's clear now why I have a whole section in my book, The First and Last Deception, calling her out. She is the chief living promoter of Father Teilhard de Chardin, and he is the false prophet, the wolf in sheep's clothing, who provided the theological foundation for contemporary exotheology. Please stay tuned. I just did a great interview with Dr. Scott Hahn, where he shed some really important insights on this Father Teilhard fellow. Anyway, please subscribe, stay tuned, more on that later. Almost all of the Catholic ET UFO promoters, they defer to Father Teilhard's apostate theology to justify their views. For example, the Catholic Church's current most famous ufologist, D.W. Pasulka, calls Father Teilhard a saint. Let's take a look at that. And let's also take a look at some excerpts from my section on Sister Delio in my book here. Oh, there's just a couple more slides there. Yes, this is from Sister Delio's curriculum vitae. That's where she taught there, Catholic seminary. Thankfully, that one's closed. Anyway. There's her Wikipedia page. Sorry, I'm forgetting some slides I had here. She's the founder of the Center for Christogenesis. That is a organization specifically dedicated to promoting the apostate theology of Father Teilhard de Chardin. And yes, that's right there at the top of Wikipedia. Moving on here. Okay, so here's from my book. This is Diana Pasulka. She's always going viral on the internet for one reason or another. She says that Father Teilhard is not a saint by official Catholic recognition, but he is nevertheless a saint to many, including me. And she talks about his view of the evolution of human intelligence, bringing about the next branch of Homo sapiens, and how the AI, she promotes this AI deception singularity in terms that are provided originally by Father Talahard. Another chief promoter of Father Talahard de Chardin is Father Richard Rohr, and he promotes this thing called the, quote, universal Christ. This is to replace the Jesus of Nazareth, the incarnation of God that Christianity has always been based on. And this is built on Father Talahard's theology. Father Richard Rohr, one of the most popular preachers today, he says that when we discover aliens, our little storyline will be shot to hell. And by our quote, little storyline, he means the faith of our fathers, traditional Christianity. Next slide. Here we go on Sister Delio's section in my book. Just a couple quick excerpts. Please, get the book for more on this. But she promotes all manner of sci-fi, NHI, that is non-human intelligence deception. AI, she says, is going to play a significant role in divinizing the world. She advocates for belief in an intergalactic convergence of consciousness where all the galaxies of intelligent life will be united. And she advocates that we need to have the courage to harness AI, to develop AI to harness the deepest religious energies of evolution. Just cram as many bogus words into one sentence as you can, basically, is their approach. Our old concepts of God cannot engage with the new revelation of technology and evolution because God is not finished becoming God. How is that happening for Sister Delio and Father Talahard and this whole slew of people in general? It's happening through AI, through AGI. God 3.0 is coming. And this is also going to, as you can see there, free religion from patriarchy. AGI, that is artificial general intelligence, AI becoming as smart as a human and becoming truly intelligent and even more intelligent than us. That's what AGI means. She says that's already here. It's the next stage of extending the human mind. And they're having a footnote there. Elsewhere, she says that God is not immutable. He's not perfect. There's no, quote, sky God or supernatural God. So this is flagrant rejection of Christianity. You might as well just outright say, I'm a pagan. And at this point, I hope you can see that what this Catholic professor is teaching at a Catholic university and has been for decades, it's not just heresy. It's apostasy. So let's return to what she's up to today. Since I wrote those words in my book in January of this year, let's go back to her rock star event here at Theology Beer Camp, although this was technically last year, although it only went online. It was only published online just a few months ago. Let's see what she has to say next.
Religion and evolution belong together. And, this actually worked. In the pre-axial period, I do think there was a much greater enfoldment. Like, I don't think, for example, indigenous communities went around saying, what religion do you belong to? They just lived it. Religion and religion do you belong to?
Sister, I don't think you'd survive in any indigenous community, but let's continue on here.
They just lived it. You live this cosmos spirituality. It's how you exist in relation to one another, in relation to the earth, and care for one another. Again, it's not something you believe in, it's something you do. But that dropped out, and we shrunk religion, like shrink wrapped into dogmas, creeds, theologies, scholastic arguments, logical arguments about what God is, who God is, what are the attributes of God. It's so boring, right?
It's so boring, she says. The dogmas and creeds.
It's like, who cares?
Who cares about all that? Who cares? I'll tell you who cares. God, Jesus Christ. Every saint who has ever lived. thousands of whom shed their blood willingly, lovingly, for those very dogmas and creeds. Our brothers and sisters in Africa, in Asia, in the Middle East today, who are still shedding their blood for those very dogmas and creeds, while Sister Delio makes a joke of it all in her cozy academic job, while she lectures ordinary Christians around the world and how they're all just too unevolved to understand the cosmic Christ.
So Taird's like, oh my God, he's
Blessed be the name of God.
like, get them out of that. It's deadly.
That's deadly for her. Dogmas, creeds, that's deadly. Remember, this is a Catholic, religious, Franciscan sister, nun, theologian teaching at a Catholic university.
Here's what it looks like. We're like, oh, well, when you say heaven, do you really mean like we're going here? Like, get over it. Heaven.
Here's your next clip from the same talk. Get over heaven. Just get over it.
Unfolds here. That's the whole point. Heaven is the openness of earth to its fullness in this power of life that we name as God.
And everybody's just applauding and cheering this nonsense.
So, okay, one of my other little heroes here is this little guy named Carl Jung.
Another apostate, anti-Catholic occultist. Don't go anywhere near this guy. Anyway, so she says, get over heaven. Even though heaven, don't think about that. Even though heaven, that's the whole purpose of earth, is to populate heaven. And, I guess if your message is one that directs people in the opposite direction of heaven, then it makes sense to tell your audience to stop thinking about heaven, because evidently you don't want them to go there. And the Catechism says that this is the Antichrist's deception, when we replace heavenly hope with earthly effort. And I don't have that quote in front of me, but it warns against the deception of the Antichrist himself. And of course, I've written a lot about that. This religious deception offering men an apparent solution to their problems at the price of apostasy from the truth. But it also says that the Antichrist's deception takes place in the world when we purport to recognize that messianic hope which is achieved beyond earth, within earth, or something like that. And of course, Jesus taught us to pray for God's will to reign on earth as it does in heaven. And as anyone who follows me knows, preaching that message of God's will is my life's mission. But this is the opposite of what Sister Delio is saying. She's saying, who cares about God's will? She's saying we can forget about that will, reject that will, and just turn earth into heaven with these apostate sci-fi deceptions. So this truly is, verbatim, the Antichrist's deception. Next clip.
On our ecology. Because we never buried Plato. We just kind of reincarnated him over and over.
Quick pause there. So she hates Plato, and she hates dualism. And just real quick aside there. Yeah, it's true that Catholic theology is not dualistic. It's not hard Platonistic. We don't think that there's body and soul that are completely separate realities that are just accidentally connected through the brain. And, we reject Cartesian dualism. That's true. Absolutely. The body, the soul is the form of the body. And they really are deeply united into one person. But, and that's absolutely true and important, but don't trust any secular scholar today. And she's a religious scholar, but she clearly wants to be loved by the secular crowd. Don't trust any secular scholar today whenever they reject dualism. That's just their cover for espousing atheism. I've seen this more times than I can count in secular scholars. It's still kind of unfashionable, even in secular scholarship, to be like a hardcore, full-blown atheist. So instead what they do is they espouse atheism by portraying it as a rejection of dualism. Because to believe that there's such a thing as God's grace, the supernatural, the spiritual, and that that's actually distinct from the material, that's of course just theism. That's just believing in God, which every true Christian forever has always believed. But they call that dualism or Platonism. And then what they're really doing when they castigate Platonism and dualism is they're actually espousing atheism. That's exactly what Sister Delio is doing here in her hatred of Plato. Okay, continuing on with the clip. And just, yes, Aristotle, he's right in his hylomorphism, just for the sake of the philosophers watching here. But again, that's not what people like her are saying.
The fact is, we are earth through and through. We're earthly, anima, right? We're from the earth, through the earth, for the earth,
and
on our
look at
ecology.
Look at what's on the screen there. A new religion. She is completely open about the fact that she's trying to start a new religion. Which is also what Father Teilhard said. He wants to create a new religion. He called it a better Christianity.
And through matter, the body, the soil, the trees, the water. So we have to, in a sense, find our way.
Cosmotheandrism. Look there on the screen that she is sharing. That's the new religion. This is just another form of sci-fi deception.
Into a new wholeness. I think, in a sense, every religious path, if it brings one to wholeness, then it brings one to a power that we name as God. I don't think any one religion has, like, ta-da, the true, an army of youth flying the banner of truth.
Actually, Christianity, specifically Catholicism, does have precisely that, sister.
Type idea. It's like, dude, you really need to get out of that dress, okay? And just like...
Ooh, gotta pause it right there. Dude, she says, dude, you gotta get out of that dress. Of course, she's talking about a priest wearing the traditional cassock, or maybe the chasuble at Mass. As we'll see in a moment, she utterly despises everything that smacks of Catholic tradition. And I can't help but note the humorous irony here with a nun in pants telling a priest to, quote, get out of the dress. That's kind of funny.
Kind of join the club. A cosmotheandric whole. Cosmos, God, anthropos. God, God, cosmos, and the human, all entangled as one. That was Teilhard's vision of Omega.
Omega, the Omega point. All diabolical drivel, and she can never just refer to just God, because that would be dangerous. She always has to squeeze in all this other stuff with any reference to him, which of course she'll probably never call him. Anyway, as with all of her talks and books and podcasts and everything, same apostate drivel. And in case you're wondering what she's up to now, same exact stuff. Now, this event was last year, but here is her most recent article. And this is on her Center for Christogenesis website. This was published just a week or two ago. She's clearly arguing for this view of hers that Christianity is dying. How do we know when religion has died? She says in Catholicism today, we say the same prayers, we say the same creed as we did in 1200 AD. And thanks be to God, yes we do and we always will. She says we still sing the Tantum Ergo and the Latin Mass. She hates the Latin Mass. She says the Latin Mass has just returned to Washington, D.C. She makes fun of these families with young children who run around after Mass, which is like my kid's favorite thing to do, to run around with their friends after a good Latin Mass. And she puts father for priest. She hates this idea of calling priests father, so she puts that in quotation marks. As, quote, father stands by in a long cassock and beretta. She's telling him to get out of the dress as she stands there in her nun pants. Okay, moving on to the article. She says, as a child, I was taught that the Roman Catholic Church is the one true church. Well, I'm glad you were raised well, sister. That is the case. And that there's no salvation outside of the Catholic Church. Indeed, there is not. Now that I'm older, she says, I must ask, would Jesus accept this statement? I sincerely doubt it. Jesus, she says, was the end of cultic worship, not the beginning. So she despises Catholic worship. She thinks Jesus came to end that, not start it. Typical New Age diabolical drivel here. Next clip. Was Christianity aborted by the Emperor Constantine? And of course, we see this is a Protestant idea. Or is it still waiting to be born, as Gandhi suggested? Teilhard de Chardin saw Christianity in its birth pangs. And this is why a good eschatology is so important for preserving orthodoxy. If you think, and I knew at least two theologians when I was in grad school studying theology who thought that they might be fathers of the church. And that sounds crazy, and it is. But if you think that history is just going to go on for hundreds of thousands or millions of more years, then by extension, you might just think that the theologians alive today are fathers of the church. And yes, some theologians really think that. They think that they're still forming what Christianity means. And that's itself such a deception. That'll be for another podcast. But no, we're in the end times now. Like, I don't know when the last day will be, of course. But yes, we are in apocalyptic times now. We're not in the era of the fathers anymore. I'll tell you that much. Okay, next clip. She says the Vatican is too mired in tradition to engage the creativity of evolution. Teilhard had a vision to bring Christianity and evolution into a coherent worldview for the vitality of all life. This vision is the heart of the Center for Christogenesis. That is her group there again, they're trying to make Teilhard de Chardin a doctor of the church. There was even a cardinal a few years ago who petitioned the Pope to remove the restrictions and the prohibitions on Teilhard de Chardin. He was condemned in the 60s by the CDF. But anyway, they're trying to formally rehabilitate him now, and that's just all part of the ET deception infiltrating the church. Moving along here, she says that this effort she advocates for requires nothing less than a complete reimagining of Christianity. Evolutionary Christianity will recognize that Christ was not a supernatural intervention. This is the rejection of the supernatural. They're not even hiding that. Sister Delio doesn't believe in the supernatural. She wants to turn every single thing that's ever happened in all of Christian history, including biblical history, as just material stuff that our unscientific ancestors kind of misinterpreted as supernatural. This is what all the UFO promoters say, even the so-called good Catholic ones. They want to reinterpret even biblical miracles as just misunderstood UFO events. She advocates for the awakening of the cosmos to its own sacred nature. So, the cosmos, matter, it's already got all it needs. We don't need supernatural intervention. We don't need God's grace. We don't need God at all, in fact, for her thesis. All we need is ourselves. She's been doing this for a very long time, spouting this apostate message completely unopposed. Here is Sister Delio in 2019, advocating for gender-neutral robot priests to solve the problems in the Catholic Church. I'm not making this up. Some people are probably shocked right now, thinking, how has this not been called out before? Well, I'll get to that in a moment. But anyway, yes, she believes in robot priests. She says that's possible. And it's, of course, over 6 years ago, or almost 6 years ago, that this happened. See, she has since declared that indeed AGI is here. AI is now rational just like we are. So I'm sure she's even more established in this view now. This is her latest paper, Artificial Intelligence and the Question of God and Evolution. This is just from a few months ago, May of this year, 2025. So she is a full-throated promoter of the AI deception. And in this article, she's claiming that God is unfinished and that AI, this is where it gets incredibly anti-Christic. She says AI may be part of God's self-unfolding. So, forget about the Bible being God's revelation of himself to us. No, AI is actually what's going to unfold God for us. And this is prompting us to reconsider our understanding of God. And of course, she always throws Teilhard evolution into it. She's advocating, she's at least endorsing here by way of another scholar, but she does this a lot. I've read a number of her books and articles. She promotes something by quoting another scholar, but she's very clearly endorsing it. A dynamic partnership between humans and intelligent machines. She's referring to a post-human. She's advocating for this. She wants, and this is what all the AI deception people want, they want the next species of humanity. Homo sapiens to Homo technicus or something like that. This merging, and the AI deception always involves a idea that we need to merge AI with ourselves and become a new species. Characterized by a cognitive system that extends beyond the individual. It's combining human and technological elements. Cognition, that means our God-given faculty of intellect. It becomes a collaborative process, an assemblage where human and technological minds merge and interact to create new forms of intelligence, the non-human intelligence deception. She says that we have to rethink religion. This is fundamental to understanding the continuing evolution of biological life and intelligence. She again in this paper brings up God coming to be, which is as fundamental an apostasy as you can imagine, as we'll get to in a moment. She says AI might be understood as an expression of divine becoming, propelling humanity towards a more integrated and holistic existence. Man, the Antichrist is loving these verses here. The emergence of global mind. Okay, cut out of that here. God who is coming to be, unfinished God. This is not just some heresy. We've been dealing with those for 2,000 years in the church. This is complete apostasy. Theologian and Catholic University professor Sister Delio is here preaching a God that is not perfect, not immutable, not omnipotent, a God who still has to grow and change and improve. And today, how? Through AI, the revelation of AI. What she is speaking of, that's not God. That's some demon masquerading as God who has deceived Sister Delio. A Muslim has a more accurate view of God than that. A Hindu has a more accurate belief in God than that. You know, we call Hindus polytheists, and they kind of are, depending upon which one you ask. Hinduism doesn't have a creed. Hinduism is really just another word for Indian. It's a culture, not a religion. But anyway, generally, they at least, a lot of them at least, believe in one omnipotent, perfect, unchangeable divine nature that they refer to as the Brahman. Sister Delio, she doesn't even have that. She's just got this ambiguous notion of some evolving, changing, imperfect being that needs AI and us to become what it is. Whatever she means by the word God, she's referring to some sort of diabolical deception, which is now all intertwined in the AI deception. She's preaching an ancient pagan pantheism, actually. But it's dressed up in sci-fi pseudoscience to make it sound appealing to a modern audience. Just remember the cheers and the applause and laughter from that audience we just heard. She is preaching the religion of Antichrist. So where does this all come from? As I said, Father Teilhard de Chardin, of course, she is the chief promoter of him. And please stay tuned for the insights that I want to share in an upcoming time from my interview with Dr. Scott Hahn about that. He's got incredible insights there. But on a deeper level, this is just the NHI deception. Sister Delio's real faith is in extraterrestrials. And as I've argued for many years, you invite that in, you take that seriously, you make that part of your faith, it wrecks everything. Next clip. Here's another recent interview with Sister Delio.
And so I have a basic trust, actually, in life itself. I think the earth is a beautiful place. It's not the only place of life. I actually have faith that there's life on other planets as well. I think that
She's not saying she thinks it's there or maybe it's there. She says she has faith in it. So this is a theological conviction for her. I can't say supernatural because she doesn't believe in the supernatural, but this is whatever she thinks of as faith. She has faith in aliens. Kind of like Immanuel Kant, that chief Enlightenment thinker. He had this faith in aliens, and more on that in my book. Anyway, back to Sister Delio.
I think for me, and I think this is Teilhard as well. You see, he's right here behind me. I don't know if you can see him, but he's always by my side. And so there's a basic. I've actually found other planets.
I'll figure this out better before my next video. I'm still figuring out the tech stuff. So Father Teilhard is always by her side. I don't know if you'll ever find Jesus there with her, but anyway.
As well, I think there's for me, and I think this is Teilhard as well. You see, he's right here behind me. I don't know if you can see him, but he's always by my side. And I think what Teilhard saw is his ideas with faith in God. faith in this by God, we mean faith in the beingness of being itself. Like,
You see, we can never just refer to God as such, as God or as Jesus. We have to dress it up in this bizarre philosophical or even sci-fi jargon to make us not refer to God. And I think, hope at this point it's becoming clear why that's the case. But anyway, when you have faith in aliens, it quickly becomes impossible to view God, to even understand God and approach him from the Christian perspective. Because the one true faith, Christianity, God is completely 100% focused on human beings. Please read that brief article from one of the greatest living theologians, Father Thomas Weinandy. I know I quoted a lot, but in just a few paragraphs, he completely obliterates belief in aliens, because he shows that Christianity, Jesus Christ, it's all about Jesus, the whole cosmos, the whole creation. It's 100% about Jesus as man. That was the eternal decree. That was another glorious insight from Scott Hahn and my interview with him last week. This wasn't a plan B. God's eternal plan was becoming man in Jesus Christ. This is everything. This is the source and summit, the crown and completion. Jesus, the incarnation, the God-man. But when you start inviting aliens into your faith, it ruins all that. Ruins it. Look no further than the incarnation, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ to grasp all things. But as soon as you invite non-human intelligence in, ET deception or AI deception, it's like choosing to get a malignant cancer. Once it's in, if you don't get rid of it fast, it ruins everything. The Christian view starts just disintegrating after that. Nature abhors a vacuum. The demons abhor a vacuum. They find that vacuum. They enter right in. They don't just leave you in your unbelief. They would much rather you worshiping themselves than simply being an atheist. And this, of course, is what has happened with Sister Delio's teachings. Now, someone might do some internet searches and say, Daniel, Sister Delio's videos, they're not getting that many views. Maybe you shouldn't worry too much about this. And I would respond to that by saying, I'm not worried about her videos. I'm concerned about the fact that she's a Catholic religious sister, at a professor, a prolific scholar, at a well-known Catholic university for many years, and also was a Georgetown professor before that, and a Catholic seminary professor before that for many years, and that she continues to be extremely prolific in the Catholic Church in America. She's already formed generations of Catholics, and she's just one example of so many like her. She's already formed generations of Catholics, including priests, with this diabolical, apostate, sci-fi deception drivel inspired by Father Teilhard de Chardin. This is bigger than just view counts on videos. She has formed much of what modern Catholicism is now. The apostasy here is flagrant, but she knows how to dance around, because a lot of scholars acquire this skill very, very well. They can dance around specific claims in such a careful way that it's difficult actually to pin specific heresies on them based on particular uses of words that they have. It's sophistry. But they're often able to avoid the charge of heresy even as they promote complete apostasy. For decades now, in her case, unopposed. And I mean unopposed. Other than this video here and the chapter against her in my book, I challenge you to find any substantial Catholic opposition to this woman's diabolical teachings for decades now. I did a search for Sister Delio's name on the USCCB's website, the most popular Catholic apologetics websites, the Vatican's website, and you know how many search results I got from all of those searches in terms of warnings or anything negative? Zero. Zero warnings, zero cautions, certainly zero condemnations. So yeah, she's unopposed. She's mentioned twice on the USCCB's website, both positively. Her books are promoted there on the USCCB's guidebook for ecumenical interreligious care for our common home. You can see there, her books are promoted there. She is also cited positively, let's get the next screen there, in the consultation on environmental justice and climate change. It's actually listed as the first person there that they're offering deep appreciation to in some selection committee. Here's what I got. This is funny. Here's what I got when I searched for Sister Delio on the National Catholic Register. I do find it a little amusing what the computer there recommended that I search for instead of Ilia Delio. Anyway, as you can see there, she gave some big talk in 2013 at the Leadership Conference of Women Religious, just a liberal nun group. And to the register's credit, they didn't come across at all as condoning her. And I think there's another article somewhere on the register from a decade or so ago that does voice some concerns about Delio. So God bless the register for that. But aside from that article or two, I was not able to find a single thing anywhere in the whole Catholic scene warning about this apostasy. Basically, it's massive praise and promotion in the circles that she travels in. And from the circles she doesn't, it's crickets. So why all of these decades of a preacher of apostasy forming generations of Catholic university students and even priests, unopposed, uncensored, and even promoted? Here is the answer. As long as you couch your apostasy in some manner of sci-fi deception, the ET, UFO, the AGI, Teilhardianism in general, as long as you couch your apostasy in some sci-fi deception, you're, for the most part, going to get off scot-free. And it's certainly true that other deceptions, heresies, lies, what have you, are not sufficiently opposed and censored in the contemporary church. But at least they are often clamped down on to some degree. There's at least an attempt to. But with the sci-fi deceptions, the ET UFO deception, AI deception, transhumanist deception, that stuff is not ever censored. It's not even opposed. Even the hierarchy, which, as you can see in the beginning of this video, is often persecuting orthodoxy, does nothing to even warn against this flagrant sci-fi apostasy. And the devil knows this. Why? Because he's behind it. He protects it. It's his most nefarious and apocalyptic plan, yet it's his chief way of laying down the preparations for the Antichrist, as I have argued extensively in the past. So, considering all of that, I hope it's abundantly clear why I have to call this out. But I do also want to make clear that this video is not a personal attack on Sister Delio. I'm only addressing this here because of what's objectively wrong with her public teachings. These are teachings that she is choosing to be public about, and which are extremely destructive as well. That's all I'm addressing. Sister Delio herself could be a great person. She probably is. She's probably a way better person than I am. Maybe she's someone that I would enjoy having a beer with at Theology Beer Camp. But she is teaching publicly destructive apostasy. She is one of many prominent Catholic scholars now, frankly, paving the way for the Antichrist. These teachings must be denounced. No one else is doing it, so I am. And that's it. That's all there is to it. There's no attacks intended, no judgment of her heart, just of her public words. Same thing with the last big name prominent Catholic scholar I had to call out. A lot of people got very angry at me when I did that and when I have to do this. They seem to think that any criticism of another Catholic is intrinsically evil. But that's delusional. And I'm not going to sit by idly while sci-fi deception takes over the church unopposed. As I said in my last podcast here, I am just getting warmed up. So, I got back from a big trip last week. You won't want to miss what I discovered during that, what I filmed during that trip. So please subscribe, and more importantly, please join me in this battle. We are fighting the good fight. God bless you.